This presentation is an analysis of the poem Howl by Allen Ginsberg. After being performed in 1956 at the Sixth Gallery Poetry Reading in San Francisco, Howl became popular in part because its publisher and fellow beat poet Lawrence Ferlinghetti was arrested by the San Francisco Police Department, who charged that the poem was obscene for its graphic sexual language. The poem gained national attention when the American Civil Liberties Union and several famous poets came to its defense, as this was right in the middle of the Cultural Revolution in the center of the beatnik movement in San Francisco. The obscenity charges were dropped, but the trial highlighted the essence of the cultural war between the hippie movement and the establishment. As a result, the attention brought to Howl by the obscenity case, it became the manifesto of the beat movement, or the countercultural literary movement which promoted nonconformity and sexual freedom and criticized materialism, militarism, consumerism, and conformity. The poem was dedicated to Carl Solomon, a friend and fellow patient at the psychiatric hospital where Ginsberg was admitted in 1949, and is a political criticism of all the values promoted by mainstream 1950s America. Howl was written under the influence of the drug peyote and expresses the pent-up frustration, artistic energy, and self-destruction of Ginsberg's generation that was being suppressed by a dominant American culture that valued conformism. In the poem, Ginsberg emphasizes madness and the desire for artistic and intellectual freedom. It was written in a stream-of-conscious style and seems formless, but it is written in three parts that all have a logical focus. Although it does not use any type of traditional form, Ginsberg says it is broken into lines based on where he would need to take a breath, and should be read quickly as if it were one long connected word. The poem uses a similar style to Walt Whitman's Song of Myself, in that it uses free verse, meaning it has no regular meter, cataloging, or the use of lists, and anaphora, or lines that repeat the same word or phrase, such as repeating the word who and the best minds in part 1, Moloch in part 2, and I'm with you in Rockland in part 3. The poem is postmodernist in its personal nature, and in that it is fragmented and uses temporal distortion or nonlinear timelines, and maximalism in that it is disorganized, lengthy, and highly detailed. It also uses personal allusions about people he knew, as well as historical, religious, and cultural allusions. The tone is angry and critical of capitalism, materialism, industrialism, the establishment, and societal repression of sexuality. It is broken into three parts, and the later edition also has a fourth part, which he names Footnote. The first part of the poem, Howl, is by far the longest, and in it he begins with the line, I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, and then proceeds to describe who he feels the best minds are, his friends, literary associates, and acquaintances associated with the beat generation, who happen to also be heavy drug and alcohol users and often insane. The poem gives a snapshot of beatnik life, revealing heavy drug and alcohol use, free love, including open homosexual and bisexual relationships, hysteria, love for jazz, poverty, sickness, insanity, and anger of what he calls the angel-headed hipsters who are burning for a relationship with spirituality. Religion is presented in a non-traditional, open manner, mixing Jewish, Christian, pagan, and Islamic religious references. In this part of the poem, he gives a very detailed and chaotic description of how the best minds of his generation are driven crazy by the establishment of 1950s America, and reflects a hostility towards conformity, domesticity, and mainstream middle-class American values that were promoted in the 1950s and which he felt destroyed creativity and freedom. In part 2 of the poem, Ginsberg describes what is causing the best minds of his generation to go insane. He says the establishment, or America's institutions of higher education, mental health, and public safety, as well as the social forces and values of mainstream America, and the evils of capitalism, industrialism, militarism, and corporate power are what causes the hardship, violence, addiction, and insanity among the day's best minds. He personifies these forces as an evil, uncaring, monstrous god named Moloch. Moloch is an ancient deity to whom child sacrifices were made throughout the ancient Middle East. Part 3 of Howl is directly addressed to Carl Solomon, to whom he dedicates the poem. In this part, Ginsberg attempts to take the reader into Solomon's madness, referring to the Columbia Presbyterian Psychological Institute where he spent time with Carl in 1949 by the fictional name of Rockland. He names Carl the savior in this part of the poem, but he is a tragic savior who has been destroyed by Moloch. He shows solidarity with Solomon and all the best minds of his generation by repeating, "I'm with you in Rockland," and ends the poem with, "In my dreams you walk dripping from a sea journey on the highway across America in tears to the door of my cottage in the western night," showing a desire to connect with his friend and with all who have been broken by the modern American establishment.